Yeah, I forgot that.
I didn't want to send you a message and then I'm in the middle of Ariana talking, we say, we're recording you now. That's helpful. Okay, so you think you would say, Ariana, that you use different social media channels for different purposes, really?
I do. But then I can also say that my teammates previously, who were much, much younger than me, were much more into TikTok, which I'm sorry, I don't get. Like don't get how to use it. So I think there's also the younger generation versus me would be super, super into TikTok.
I see others nodding. Does anyone else use TikTok?
I've had the exact same experience. I'm more Instagram. My younger teammates are really big on TikTok. I also don't know how to use it. Don't really get it. But seems to be like my younger teammates are much more into TikTok than Instagram.
Jackie, do you use LinkedIn for other purposes?
I am pretty bad with LinkedIn. I pretty much use it just as like a billboard of my resume to find jobs. And if I'm not looking for a job, I don't look at it for like years at a time, which I don't think is like really the proper way to use it. But and I also don't use it as an athlete pretty much at all. Like that's been more of my engineering career, the energy career. So it's kind of been like separated from the sports world for me.
So you'd say that Instagram is like your face of that's your athlete face. Do others kind of feel similarly?
I'll add Twitter into that. I definitely, if I'm looking for more informative sources, I'll go to Twitter, more like links to articles, things like that. Instagram, I think, is more like I find out about something and then I'll go to Twitter to actually learn more about it, I guess. But I definitely agree with Instagram as a primary one as well.
And where is LinkedIn a part of this, or is it more like what Jackie was saying as well?
I would say I'm somewhere in between Ariana and Jackie. I check it probably weekly, but I don't actually do anything on it, really. I'll make connections, but I don't post or anything like that. I don't really use it as an athletic brand. I use it more as like outside of athletics, more like what I've done in school and other jobs sort of thing.
What about some of the men on the call?
Yeah, I would agree. It's Instagram first, and then I use Twitter quite a bit. Same as Zoe. It's a more informative site, so I'm more likely to click a link that I find on a Twitter, on a tweet than I would on Instagram. And it's just there for just like witty banter as well. For LinkedIn, I use LinkedIn because I connect with people like in the field. So there's like a group function, and I'm in a lot of groups and make connections that way. But I haven't really used it for a sport-facing function in the past.
Yeah, the link sharing on Instagram is tough, right? So like anything that has longer content, especially because you can't always like change the link in your bio, or you can't just put a URL that's clickable very easily. I agree. Twitter's good for that. Any other thoughts on just kind of generally social media?
Well, I guess here in Portugal or in Europe is a little bit different. People still use Facebook, but not the younger generation. And the young generation only use at the moment or TikTok, of course, or Instagram. But as myself, I use Instagram. I do a post on Instagram, and then they go straight to Facebook and Twitter. So I also use LinkedIn, but only as a professional purpose. As a matter of the fact, I only use social media for professional reasons.
Can I just throw something out there, Kristen? Because I'm like really big. I'm not big, but I use LinkedIn a lot. Strongly recommend you guys get better or like more focused on LinkedIn, because I get invited to speak at a lot of conferences because of my crossover between sustainability and being an athlete. And so for your own personal brand, I don't like what I post on Instagram as an athlete is different than what I post on LinkedIn as an athlete, but you can still share some of your athletic prowess and then also things you do for work or your educational background or something like that. But it's not a bad platform to get better at, because the networking that goes on there and also the conferences that you can use your voice to make a more positive change is probably better on LinkedIn. And I'm more inclined to respond to people who message me on LinkedIn than on Instagram Messenger.
I agree. I kind of do the same thing.
And shout out to Ariana for having lots of speaking, I feel like, coming up that I actually just saw on LinkedIn. I saw you post it. So that's awesome. And I think it is because these topics are coming together and we're seeing it more and more. It does feel like LinkedIn, especially for people that are interested in the professional focus, is definitely helpful.
And I think also it's just a matter of broadening your audience, because I'm gonna guess that for many, your Instagram followers might be similar to your Twitter followers, but your Instagram followers might not be as similar as your LinkedIn followers. And so, in the idea of just broadening your audience and your brand, environmental, but also personal brand, LinkedIn is just a good, audience enhancer, so to say.
Yeah, I guess that goes into kind of the next bit of questions as well, which is more just about, which platforms, maybe you've kind of already answered it, but which platforms would you first go to kind of enhance your personal brand as it relates to being a climate active athlete? Would you still default to Instagram because that's where you feel like your fans and followers are? Or maybe for a variety of other reasons, would you default to LinkedIn? Like what do you think of, or do you even think about something called like a personal brand as it relates to social media?
I've found that when I post similar climate related things on both Instagram and Twitter, I get way more interaction on Instagram. Maybe that is just who my followers are and if they use Twitter versus Instagram more. But so I feel like I'm more likely to try to build my brand in sustainability and sports on Instagram, just because that's where I feel like I've gotten more of a community over the last couple of months when I've been doing more of this.
Does that resonate? Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We're going to ask the same question. Do others, I guess, feel similarly?
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's really easy to, make that connection on Twitter and Instagram, like a repost or retweet or a direct message, things of that. Very simple actions, like lends itself to those mediums. I get a lot of that interaction on Twitter just by like retweets and then like forwarded messages, because you get notified when that happens. So you can just see how many people you're reaching, what that impact is, and how to follow up. Also with Instagram, when somebody like tags you in a story or repost something that you posted, you're notified. So I can see how many people I'm reaching, and you can easily quantify, depending on the message, who you're reaching, like, and who is like getting involved in that messaging.
Yeah, so there's other, I guess, stakeholders, right? There's other kind of like players as part of this, which is definitely an interesting component. And I know some of the people on the last call were talking about how, they think kind of strategically about building their personal brand on different social media platforms as it relates to like what their representation is. So like if they are working for another organization, they feel like they're posting kind of on behalf of that organization, even if you say like, this is my personal opinion and not representative of my organization. People still feel like they need to kind of stay within the confines of their larger organization that they represent. Do other people feel similarly? Or do other people, I guess, feel like you're at the mercy of an organization you either work for or a league or your team?
I mean, yes, our social media got checked, and if the club didn't like what you were posting, they would tell you to bring it down.
Did they give you expectations of what that was ahead of time?
Not necessarily, no. They tell you to use your discretion, but their choice of discretion versus yours can be different.
And so when you were choosing to be more outspoken on either social or environmental issues, did that always kind of cross your mind in posting something?
Not necessarily, because I normally know that my post would be okay. I actually just got in trouble for posting comments just in general about the business side of football for clubs that they thought were in direct competition with us, and told me I wasn't supposed to do that, but I didn't care. But from a social perspective, they definitely would have gotten involved, but it would just depend on what it was. It was actually more like players posting what they were eating, and it was candy or something, and they made them take it down. But most of my teammates are not socially conscious enough to post certain things, so I don't know.
That
So
reminds, oh,
No, go ahead.
Lou, go ahead. I was just gonna say, that reminds me, I was watching Hard Knocks last night and I couldn't believe the stuff that some of the players on the Cowboys, because they're covering the Cowboys this year, were eating. And I was like, I can't believe the team's letting them show what they're eating, because it's disgusting. But yeah, Gary's nodding, so I'm sure that resonates.
For those who are not in the US or not aware of US sports, Hard Knocks is a very popular show that each year in the NFL, when they have training camp before the regular season, they follow one team like to the nth degree, including what they eat. So this year they're following the Dallas Cowboys.
Sorry for the distraction, Lou, go ahead.
No problem. So I was going to ask, how can we best help you post about the environment or climate? Because what we want to do is make it as easy and turnkey as possible. So if there are any ways that you think we can help make it easy for you, feel free to give us an idea.
For me, I think to set aside time to have like a one-on-one call where you maybe ask specific questions directed toward climate or climate activism or whatever the case is that we're talking about, and then actually clipping that into content, if it's 1 minute or 4 minutes for IGTV, or even if somebody could clip it into a reel or TikTok, so it makes it easier for the athlete itself to post that content once it's created. I think that would be helpful. And I know personally, like, I would post way more stuff if somebody clipped it up for me, because there's tons of content out there of us speaking about whatever it is we're speaking about, but to get it down into Instagram bit type post to post there, or even LinkedIn, and in myself too, like the writing side of it. Write your boy a caption with some hashtags, so it's real easy. Like, all right, perfect, boop, there it goes. And
like Twitter, like tweet language.
Depending on what platform you're on, right? I mean, Facebook, you get a little bit more long-winded, right? Instagram, you want to get a little shorter, maybe do more hashtags so it gets out more. TikTok, Reels, same thing, more hashtags, shorter bits. You got a younger crowd. LinkedIn, you could probably be a little bit more long-winded too. So it could be the same bit of content, but the captions and the hashtags might be a little bit different for each platform. But if somebody did that for us, it would make it way easier for us to post it. And I guarantee more of us would post.
And just like a very painfully logistic question about that, like, what's the best way to get that content to you? Would it be like access to a Google Drive, or like texting them to you so it's already on your phone? Like, what's the best way to share that stuff?
Probably Google Drive, because some of them will get big, so you can't email them and text. People got Android iPhones or WhatsApp. Sometimes it makes that quality worse. And I think Google Drive is a good way to maintain quality and put big files and share across the world. So I'd say Google Drive, but it could be different for other people.
Perfect.
I think something too for me, going along what Gary's saying, is if we had maybe like I know we would do the newsletter, but just a weekly newsletter of like what's happening in the world of sustainability, whether it's new clothing coming out or athletes aligning with a brand, or like I don't know, the drop of legacy sport coming out, or what 17 Sports is doing, or where the SDGs, I don't know, just like a weekly or bi-weekly newsletter. Because I know personally when I was working at PSG in our marketing, I had a business newsletter every day, so it was super easy for me to repost on LinkedIn and sound really smart that I knew all this really cool stuff that was happening in the business world, but totally was not all me searching. And I think even for the athletes, it's a lot easier if you not necessarily spoon feeding us, but we can read that and then we can choose what information we'd personally like to post on our media and connect that, whether it's Instagram, a photo, or Twitter or whatever it is. But just having those things that are happening in the world, I think is helpful.
What about more of the interactive posts? Jackie, you're about to say something, so go for it.
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say I'm really liking the posts of like what the other athletes are doing that's like climate engaging. Because personally, I feel a bit preachy like posting about myself. Like most of my followers are just like friends and family. I don't have like a big fan base or anything like that. So I think it's really cool when we're posting like, you know, this Olympian is doing XYZ, this other eco athlete is speaking at this event. And I think if we could make that content maybe a bit more like like easy to digest, like little sound bites of information, so that it was very clear to like to reshare. I think that would be really helpful.
Awesome. So yeah, we resharing was definitely a theme of the last one as well. So if, you know, we're posting stories and can tag you in things that might be relevant, then it's easier to repost or retweet or whatever the platform is.
Can I just?
Yeah.
I just want to go back to what Ariana was saying with the, let's say by twice a month, you know, just sending kind of links to stories, etc. If we were to do that, what would be the best way? Would that be good to send an email, or what would be the best kind of vehicle to get that to you, so you would make sure you saw, so you would take note of it?
I think that would be cool. But if you guys like Lou and Kristen did like a little like, you know, news at 5 segment, like in the world of sustainability.
Oh man.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like that might make it digest, and then we can see how you guys are talking about it. Then that kind of gives us a cue, like, all right, yeah, got it. Let me look deeper into that or ask a question.
And
I mean, it takes a
Christian,
little
what's
bit more
happening
work.
in biofuels today?
Okay, well then if you want to get technical on that,
Oh no.
Gary, I think, is got the biggest following on here right now, and he's in the NFL. So the ideal thing would be for you guys to write it, and then Gary, you post it and tag all of us, and then we can like pass out that soundbite. But you like speaking, okay, and now today, coming in from sustainability, would actually get the rest of the world paying attention. Because no offense, if Lou or Kristen do it, we're gonna watch, but the rest of the world's not gonna pay attention. You do it.
No offense
Everyone.
taken whatsoever. None.
Nah,
Yeah,
hey,
Gary, we'll send you your script next week.
I'm down. Y'all got to do one first so I can see how it's done. And then, hey, I'm with it. You know, welcome to this week's episode of Gilliam's Island in the world of sustainability. It could be anything. I'm with it. I'm down. Give me a script or like a little teleprompter, and I'll read about some stuff.
That would be
a great
actually
idea.
amazing. You
But
could keep going too and be like, we're still floating. We haven't gone underwater yet.
That's right. But Gary, no actors equity rates at this, you know, no, at this point.
No, this is all, you know, this is nonprofit charity work. We're educating people. I'm with this. It's not a thing. Yeah, no, I like that. That would be fun.
In the meantime, before we get the show, the production quality where it needs to be, maybe in the 1.0 version, we've talked about emails. We've also talked about having a Slack channel for a lot of different reasons. Like on a scale of 1 to meh, how do you guys feel about Slack, or do you use it at all?
So like group chat? Is that like
basically group chat? You can have different channels. We could have a channel that's about like green sports news where people can share links. So it's not just us sharing, but other people. There could be a channel for eco athletes doing cool stuff, and we could share links there. But it is another app that you have to sign into. And so we've been kind of toying with the idea.
You could create an Instagram chat group to do the same thing.
Yeah, but the difference on this one with Slack though is that they can put it in different spots. So if there's a lot of things or like people joking and going back, if you don't look at it for one day, you don't come back and have like 60 messages and then you have to like go back. There has like hashtags, like she said, hashtag eco athletes. So us joking together is only in the eco athletes one. Another one is just news. So if you want to repost something that day, you just go to the news and we don't flood it with information that's not needed, because it can get kind of annoying on group chats. Like if you go on vacation for a day and you come back and there's like good information mixed in there, but you don't have time to read every line, Slack is better for that.
Makes sense.
I'm a fan of Slack too. I think that'd be a good idea. I think it's fairly easy to use, and yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I like it over email, especially for this function.
Over email. Okay, awesome. And I'm not sure. I think in everywhere where we have markets, everybody can access Slack. I know in some Asian countries, they don't have access to it, but have you had experience with it?
No, actually, it's the first time that I'm hearing about that.
No worries, no worries. We'll do some research and make sure that everybody can access it if we choose to go that route. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Ariana has all the
groups.
channels.
So we use it
Everything
for
in-
work, and so like the darker color is like just where that information goes, and then you can individually talk to people too, and it really separates stuff in conversations, and you can reply within that, and it's not just one long thing.
Right, and there could be sustainable business, eco athletes, and in green news or whatever. And then if you want to find out what the eco athletes are actually, who are still active, are doing on the field, in the pool, on the pitch, we could have that as well, just more for fun.
Awesome. Okay, cool. So it sounds like that maybe is a good route in the future to share the content. I think we have some good ideas of how we can help equip you to speak on these things easier. So Gary, the idea about clipping videos is definitely something we've talked about and something we want to continue doing. And of course, it just takes time and resources to do it. But that's definitely on the top of our list because we have access to so much content already. And obviously there's more and more news happening to share. Lou, do you think it's best to just kind of keep moving? So if anyone has any other ideas, by the way, on any way that we can help you or any specific story before we kind of keep this idea moving, please feel free to share. Otherwise, you'll hear from us with more kind of ideas and follow-ups to it, including we're going to send out pretty soon just like a basic kind of one pager of tips of how to use Instagram or different ideas of when to post. So today, for example, the US Open might be impacted by the hurricane that just passed through. Really great opportunity for Marcus and Gabby and maybe even others to share about how climate is affecting their sport specifically. So we have a few ideas like that we'll send around. We've also talked about things like a social media takeover day. If someone wants to kind of go live on Eco Athletes page or on their own page, or we could do like a back and forth conversation just to engage people, especially if you're up to something related to sustainability. Say you're doing a cleanup that day, Gary, you're at the bridge doing something outside and you want to show everybody through the Eco Athletes channel. We definitely want to explore those ideas. Another idea that we've been sharing that Michael's been researching is the concept of like a journal, like an Eco Athletes collective journal, where you're able to either share your thoughts kind of through a collective platform, either written or verbal video, related to like climate anxiety, or you're dealing with an issue that's related to the environment, or you're working on a really exciting project that you want to share. Basically just something outside of just the classic social media channels, but a collective place where we can keep everybody's thoughts and ideas around what it's like to be a climate active athlete. So that's just an idea. It's kind of half baked. We're putting it together, but wanted to share it in case anybody knew of any platforms or were like had an idea or really excited about that. But just wanted to throw that out there for now. And that's kind of where, we came up with this idea because in one of the last community chats, one of the athletes shared a really powerful, just few minute statement about some kind of climate anxiety he was feeling in his hometown related to some really big storms and how it was going to impact his sport. And it was just a really authentic, kind of emotional, like, I don't know what to do, I feel helpless type of statement. And it was really powerful. And we thought, wow, that could be captured. And Gary, like you said, and maybe like a bite-sized video and shared through this video platform, and hopefully with the plugins to reshare it on social media as well outside of this journal. So just another project we're working on. And then the last thing, I'll share my screen again. Just a second. Okay. Sorry, I was about to show you my very ugly desktop. Okay. So back on the website, another kind of way that we thought we could help you enhance your climate brand is through really just the power of our website and the fact that we have everybody together in one place. So on the website, if you click athletes and go to the Eco Athletes Champions page, scroll down, we meet everybody from there, wherever country they are from or originate or play in, depending on what they choose. And right now, if you click on any of the profiles, I'll just click on Mara here. You see that the original story that Lou wrote up when you first joined Eco Athletes, which is great because you get a background, you see some quotes, you get some photos. And Mara was one of the first athletes to join. So we've gone back and updated some of the language, but some of it we want to make sure is still up to date since Mara joined, I guess, more than a year ago now.
Yep.
So I took a stab at this with Gary's profile only because I know a little bit more about the projects he's working on and felt like I could voluntold him to update his profile. So basically what we thought about is creating more of like truly a profile as opposed to just a news story about each of you if you choose to kind of take us up on this, which would include really linking to your work and promoting whatever you want to promote, almost like kind of a LinkedIn page. We were thinking of it almost like a link tree of all of your work. If you're familiar with a link tree concept, where it's basically literally just a hub of all of the different things you're working on. So you could think of it like, your green sports resume of sorts if you want, or you could use it to promote one project or talk about one project you're working on. So for Gary, we have kind of what his sports background is, what he does now. I didn't fill it in here, but a lot of you have put together climate action commitments for us, basically something you've committed to for this year related to taking climate action. So that would go here. Links to social media, background in athletics, what he's doing now, links then, if you keep scrolling down, to either media appearances. This is where we could put in video clips, embed YouTube's videos, add interviews, and also share different news or media hits related to his work. So for Gary, I just dropped in the podcast he did with Lou. Obviously, there's a lot more that we could add, as well as some headlines where he's either represented eco athletes in the bottom left or related to some of his other work with the bridge. And then at the bottom, I've kept the story there in case people are curious about the history. So this is a very kind of quick example of what it could look like to update profiles, but we thought basically if you all were interested or had things you wanted us to add to your profiles to showcase your kind of climate activities, we'd love to do that and use what we have, these pages, to allow you to help kind of grow your brand. Any thoughts on that? Head nods, that's fine. That's a good thought.
I think it's great.
Awesome.
And on this, we would, it's really up to you. We're not going to do it for everybody, but if you are interested and you think it can help, help you in your personal brand, your climate brand, and your business, we're happy to take your content, organize it, and make that page, come to life.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. I really like the idea and the concept behind it, because I was thinking about just the organization of the brand as being like a sustainable athlete and eco champion. Because on our own social media, we're wearing different hats. It's fun, it's personal, sponsorships and engagement. But through this page, I think that can be the hub that we have to move this message forward, and that's how I see it all. So I really like this concept, and it, like I said, helps me organize what message and my branding that I want to put out there and expand when it comes to this.
For sure. And I mean, we haven't built your first page, Opong, so maybe it's a good way to like test out some of the ways that you'd want it to be shared. We can, try to test out different, buttons and different ways to upload files, whatever, or embed videos, whatever you're interested in.
And on the
And
one,
go ahead.
on the one you did that you mocked up for Gary, I think it was the LinkedIn, I'm sorry, the Instagram and the Twitter button were there, and we could also put LinkedIn there.
Mhm.
If you like.
Yeah, and this seems petty, but I think it's kind of cool. The URL can be whatever we want it to be, but we made it all just your names. So I don't know if that's a big deal or not, but I feel like it is helpful to have a URL with your actual name in it, especially in terms of like how it shows up in Google and search engines. So hopefully that's helpful. Lou, you want to now just close it out?
Yep. We're almost up on time, and the one last thing I wanted to update you guys on is the COP26 sports community manifesto, which all of the athletes who are on with us today have endorsed. So thank you for doing that. As of right now,
could you give us like a little elevator pitch of COP26? Just like,
so COP20, really good point. COP26 is the global climate conference that's happening. It's organized by the UN. It's happening at the beginning of November, over 2 weeks in Glasgow, Scotland. And according to most kind of observers and people in the climate space, this is potentially the most impactful and most important COP. They happen every year, except last year it didn't happen because of COVID. The most important COP since the 2015 one in Paris, which was where the Paris Climate Agreement was signed, because this is the year where the governments of the world are going to be, kind of need to put their commitments on overdrive to be able to get to real climate reductions over the next decade or so. And so it's going to be governmental, corporations, businesses are going to be represented. It is a massive thing, and sports heretofore has not had a presence at the COP for any to any degree. And there will, and so our idea with the manifesto was to starting with the eco-athletes community and then broadening it out beyond eco-athletes to other interested athletes and athlete groups, and then also companies or organizations, and then thought leaders who touch into the sport for good or the green sports world, or who simply are in the climate space and see the possibilities of sports and athletes getting involved in leading. We want to have one statement that we can then show to the leaders of the COP that the athletes of the world and those associated folks and organizations want to have a voice. And so this is, I think it's November 1st to 12th or something along those lines. And so any more questions about that, Gary, or was that a good elevator pitch? Anybody else on what the COP is about?
actually, one more question.
Okie doke.
How does one become a speaker at a COP?
Truthfully, I don't know the answer to that. But the organizers are within the UN intergovernmental sphere. So I don't have an answer to that, but I know that it comes from that world. I don't know, Kristen, if you have any other insights.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably, the emerging and, biggest advocates and leaders in the climate sphere, mostly from the governmental perspective and large businesses. So like, for an example, I was just talking to someone a little bit earlier who they're working with a large tech company, and that tech company is going to have a really large, big announcement at COP. And so there's a lot of, people are using it as a platform to talk about really innovative climate commitments from the corporate side, as well as pushing like actually regulation and policy globally from the governmental side. But then there's all of COP, but then there's all of the stuff associated with COP because COP is so big. And so there's a lot of like smaller things happening because COP is already happening in Glasgow, that like they're just smaller events or conferences or pre-conferences or post-conferences of people coming together on smaller topics. So whether that's, like the US conservative movement who care about climate coming together, or people in sports who are coming together to talk about climate, like if you have interest groups, there's probably a group meeting about it at COP.
And the COP acronym is Conference of the Parties. And just to amplify on what Kristen was saying, so there, like, if you look at it as concentric circles, the inner circle is the actual COP, who are actual delegates from the countries who are participating, which is pretty much every country in the world. And so there you'll have people from the government and related organizations. Then in the next circle out are all of the satellite events that are happening at the COP over the 2 weeks. And I know some people who are kind of in that outer group, but it's a massive thing,
including 2 advisory board members of Eco Athletes, which
there.
is another reason why it's exciting. So Lou, I don't even think you shared the update on the manifesto commitments.
Not yet. So where we are right now is, and just checking before we got on the Zoom, 36 athletes, including now some beyond the Eco Athletes Champions, 24 organizations, including Legacy of Lions, which is one of Gary's organizations, and then we have 16 what we'll call thought leaders, luminaries, including 8 of our 9 advisory board members, and we are looking to grow that number. So, and first of all, thank all of you for endorsing it. And if you can share it with anybody else who, whether it be an athlete, someone who runs a company that you think would be interested in doing this, we are taking endorsers. We are hoping to, once we get to, 85, 100, to then put this out to the media, to get media coverage that the athletes of the world and the like groups are taking a stand right now that, hey, we need the COP to do what the COP is meant to do. And so we're making feelers out to media, and over the next month or 2, we will be getting hopefully stories about this. And then if we have a presence at the COP, we may have the ability to have a story after the COP as well about the manifesto being part of one of the events there. So go ahead, Kristen. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just going to quickly add, well, you said once we get to 85 to 100, just as a note, we are almost at 85. I think we have like 82 now. So we're definitely getting there. And I think, that's a sizable number to get media attention. On the last community chat, someone asked about social media related to posting about being a signatory, which we figured we might share in like mid-September. So COP's not until November, but we want to kind of build some momentum around this. So we're going to share some Instagram or Twitter templates, social media templates in general, that you can post that just says, I'm a signatory, proud to be a signatory. Here's what the COP is. Here's what the sports community is hoping to achieve through the COP. So we'll share more about that, maybe in a Google Drive link shortly.
And then we do already have one media, which is an important one, which is Green Biz. Green Biz is agreeing that that they're gonna run a story about it, and then they're also gonna do a podcast about athletes, the COP, and the manifesto. So we already have one that will happen. Any thoughts or questions about that? Because I think we are just 3 minutes over time, and we want to respect our commitments.
I was just going to say, just like at the last community chat, which we'll consistently keep doing, we're going to send out just follow up few news items. News items and just follow up to what we talked about today. So we'll send that early next week. So keep your eye out for that. And thank you guys so much for all of your perspective on the social media stuff that hopefully will be able to build out some tools to really kind of speak to exactly what you're asking for.
Thank you so much, or obrigado. And Jackie, in bocca al lupo.
Thanks, guys.
Nice meeting everyone. See y'all.
Bye. Thanks for coming.